This episode of Let's Argue About Plants is brought to you by Bluestone Perennials, a second-generation, nationally renowned mail-order nursery. Bluestone offers over 1,000 varieties of perennials, grasses, ground covers and shrubs for shipment throughout the US. All plants are grown in natural fiber, biodegradable pots that plant directly into the soil, and all plants are 100% guaranteed to grow. Visit bluestoneperennials.com today.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Argue About Plants, the podcast for people who love plants.
But not always the same ones. I'm Carol Collins. I'm Associate Editor at Fine Gardening.
And I'm Danielle Sherry. I'm the Executive Editor here at FG. And good morning, Carol. We are taping early in the morning on this glorious spring morning. It actually feels like spring now on the East Coast. It took a while, though.
There were a few final bursts of winter, I would say. But
yes.
Here we are. And yes, it really is spring, I think.
I think so, too. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. So before we get into today's topic, which, guys, today we're going to do a tribute to tulips. I mean, that sounds very official. It sounds like we're, having some sort of ceremony with medals or something like that, doesn't it?
It does.
Before we get into that, listen, I know we had told you, and a lot of you have responded to the free webinar that was a couple weeks ago that Carol and I talked about that we had worked so hard on. And today we wanted to share another project that, gosh, has been in the works for Carol almost a year, close to a year.
Seems like it.
All right. Carol and I have poured our heart and souls into. We had put together a learning course, an e-learning course that's called Plants for a Better Planet. And initially, the concept was we were just going to do a one-off and do it live and in person out on the West Coast with a very exclusive, limited audience. And then, Carol, we dipped in and we started hearing these presentations and thought, we got to get this out to a wider audience, right?
Oh my goodness, because it was great being in that room and hearing those three speakers. It would be great if we could share that with the world.
Exactly. I mean, these were college level courses. They were so great. It wasn't, I don't want to say that because I think a lot of people go, oh, boring, but no, it was laden with scientific information. We all on, gardening during a time of climate change. We had three amazing speakers who were also very funny too. I will give them that. So we kicked it off with Richard Hockey, who did an entire presentation. He's from the Chicago Botanic Garden and runs the trial gardens there. He did an entire presentation that was on nativars and low maintenance, drought tolerant, pollinator attracting plants. And his plant list and the way he described these plants was just epic. And then the next presentation was
Kelly and Sue from Far Reaches.
That's right.
Yeah. And they are like amazing plants people. And they were talking more globally about what's going on planet wide and how the efforts of the Far Reaches Conservatory are actually important, which, oh my gosh, some of the slides are so great to just be able to see what plant explorer's life is actually like. That was my favorite part of that one.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And they're out there in the world, around the world, globally, saving these endangered species of plants. And they really get into, A, why we should care about endangered plants, and B, what we can do to help, because they're bringing them back and they've got this arm of their whole mission is to propagate these plants and get them into the hands of other gardeners so we could actually help conserve these species for the next generation, which is pretty amazing. And then we ended out with one of our favorites, which was Kelly Norris, and he was talking about generalist native plants, which is this whole category of native plants, which might be the only ones that survive climate change. That's what my takeaway was.
Or at least they'll help fill in when, other things can't make it. But that was an interesting one too. He loves maps. I love maps. There were maps showing how plants move through, nature. Fascinating.
Amazing. So this course, guys, it's called Plants for a Better Planet. We could go on and on for another 18 minutes about how great it was, but you can sign up at finegardening.com. It should be on our landing page. It's a bright green, kind of graphic that says Plants for a Better Planet. If you don't see it there, click into the webinar tab. You'll be able to sign up for the course there as well. It's just a really amazing course that Carol and I just worked so diligently and so hard on this, and it's really worth it. And plus you'll walk away with a bunch of different handouts and supporting materials that are great that come along with the class. And we're going to do a live Q&A with these 4 speakers, that if you sign up for the class, you get to participate in too, and just, kind of pepper them with all of your questions about native plants and gardening in a time of climate change. So, all right, we'll stop with the hard sell, but that is top of the mind. The course starts April 19th. So make sure that you pop in there quickly and sign up if you are interested in plants for a better planet. Da, 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 da. So speaking of plants that make my planet better right now, Carol, are your tulips starting to come up at all in your garden?
Okay, let's talk about my garden and tulips. The squirrels love the bulbs. And so the ones that they didn't get as bulbs last year, they are waiting for those first flowers because they will eat the flower right off the top. And
the squirrels will?
They love them. And I mean, isn't that cute? But I don't have enough money to feed all the squirrels tulips.
All right. So as an aside, everybody's got to know that Carol has a very active squirrel population. A few of them have names in Carol's world. They are very charismatic. I will say you have the most charismatic squirrels I've ever seen. They sometimes appear on camera, clinging to your window in the background. Is that correct, or am I embellishing?
Well, it has happened. I stopped giving them walnuts, and they mostly went away. Charles is still around. Charles is my main squirrel, and he is my compost buddy. He likes to eat, the things I throw in the compost. So, and my tulips.
Yeah. So for you, are the tulips that you're going to talk about today kind of like wish list tulips, or tulips that you've really seen in some of the gardens that you've gone to visit that have really just captured your heartstrings?
Yes, absolutely. These are wish list tulips, and I'll talk about some sort of tulip protection strategies too.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I think that I could grow tulips. I've just really got to get organized, and I have to defend them against Charles.
Okay. All right. So if you figure out a Charles mitigation plan, what would be the first tulip that you would actually go out and buy and give a whirl in your garden?
Okay, this was a really cool one, and it's from an article that was from issue 178, where Irvin Etienne, this was the first article I had done with Irvin actually, and he showed us how you can plant bulbs of all kinds, spring flowering bulbs in the fall in nursery pots. You can even plant layers of them. You can do multiple bulbs in a single pot, and you overwinter them under mulch, and then you pop them into a container the following spring, like when they're getting going, so that you've got like sort of an instant pop of color wherever you want it. So that would be a way that you could prevent squirrels and other critters from stealing your bulbs, because you can protect that mulch pile. Irvin showed how you can use like deer repellent on it. So this was the article where he did this amazing combination that had Princess Irene tulip in it. Mm-hmm. And that is a tulip that gets 12 to 14 inches tall. It's a single early tulip, so it comes sort of earlier in the tulip window. And this is one that you would plant maybe 6 to 8 inches deep, 6 inches apart. So it's a fairly large tulip head. You want to sort of space them, but in a container, I think you can go shoulder to shoulder and just pack them in there. But if you're putting them in the landscape, you space about a little bit. And this is just the color is what makes this one amazing. It's a multicolored tulip. The base is like a coral with, little orangey tinges, pinkish tinges, little bit of green on the outside. There's a flame-like streak, which some people describe as purple. I sort of see it as like a brick red. Mm-hmm. And Irvin planted this with a tulip variety that is an offspring, which I'll cover in my next segment. But it was like just a slightly different color, and you'll see if you're looking at the show notes or if you're looking at the video version, you'll see those two colors together just sort of shimmering because they're so close, but they're just a little bit different.
I love it. I love that. Yeah, so Carol, how tall does Princess Irene get? I get that, like it's a pretty significant flower head. It sounds like it's got some bulk to it.
Yeah, 12 to 14 inches tall.
12 to 14 inches.
So like a foot tall. Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm anxious. Let's break the mold here. I want to hear the one that he paired it with. So roll right into that. Take a sip of water and roll right into that next one, because okay. I can't remember. I remember this article, but I can't remember this combination for the life of me.
So the companion is Pretty Princess. So think of it as the daughter plant of Princess Irene. And instead of that coral, it has like a soft rose pink as the base. Ooh. Streaks of orange, streaks of that purple or brick red, and a little bit of green again in the petals, which is just, I don't know, that makes it look really cool and different. But, same height, same everything, except the slightly different color.
Oh my gosh, it almost feels like you're like creating like this watercolor painting, like they're like color echoes of each other.
Yeah, and this, I did not get to see this in person because Irvin took the pictures and he sent us these amazing photos, like more than we can ever fit in the magazine. So the ones that are in the show notes of these two photos were ones that were actually never seen by anyone but Irvin. But they really show the color extraordinarily well. He caught it with like morning light sort of flowing through. Oh my goodness. Amazing. Just amazing. They're real artists. They're at Newfields in Indianapolis. The whole team, they just do an amazing job with spring bulbs and all kinds of, everything.
Oh my goodness. I'm getting excited, and I wouldn't call myself a tulip aficionado, but that pairing sounds absolutely gorgeous. Now that's Princess Irene and Little Princess.
Pretty Princess. Pretty Princess is the pink one, and Mom, Princess Irene, is the more orange coral one.
I love it. And both around 12 to 14 inches tall and a large-headed tulip with multicolors, it sounds like. Oh, so cool. All right.
And they should bloom at the same time if you're doing it as a combo. So.
Which would be like, that's one of the tips, right? I many years ago planted a lot of tulips before I figured out how to protect them from the deer, which I'll get into. But and I had onesitis with tulips where I would just, they're not inexpensive. So I would get a bag of bulbs, which was typically, 6 to 8, and I would scatter them across my 1/4 acre property or whatever, my 1/4 acre garden. And they just, they don't really make much of an effect. One would pop up, and if I was lucky, it would bloom, and it was so fleeting. So over the years, just reading and talking to a lot of our authors and visiting other gardens, if you've got one bag of bulbs, plant it pretty close together. So you're almost creating like this massing effect. And, you think of tulips, a single stem, maybe two, it's definitely not a daffodil where you're going to get this cluster of blossoms. So, that's a good way to make your bulbs go far. It's kind of counterintuitive. Don't just, bing, 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 plop them in all over the place. Get them all fairly close together, within a foot radius at least. So then when they all come into bloom, it really does make an instant, impact of a focal point. So I will say I wasn't great at this, but certainly my neighbor across the street, shout out to Misty, has this tulip that the entire neighborhood swoons over. And it's Claudia is the name of it, Claudia Tulip. So Tulipa Claudia. It's zones 3 to 7. We can say right up at the top that tulips kind of range between 3 to 7, 4 to 8, kind of in that range. And it's completely variable. That's what I've found. If you're in zone 3, give it a whirl. If you're in zone 4, give it a whirl. Once you start getting too hot and you don't have the chilling effect, if you're in a climate that doesn't have the chilling effect, it's a lot harder to grow some of these European tulips. However, many of the species tulips you can still get away with. So, look for that. We've got some species tulips coming up here. But anyway, back to Misty. Misty has Claudia, and the shape of this tulip is considered a lily tulip. So it's kind of like this fluted trumpet, and it is a dark lavender that every single one of those fluted tips is outlined in white. And it's about 18 to 24 inches tall. And she, brilliant gardener that she is, has a bunch of these kind of clustered together. So when they put on a show and they're really tall and doing their thing, it is a sight to see. It also, that purpley color is unlike anything I've really seen before. And every time the light shines through it, it gives you this totally different effect. Is it like more magenta? Is it like a darker emperor kind of purple? I don't know. It's a color changing masterpiece. Absolutely love it. I was cracking up a couple of years ago because we're not on a very well-traveled road. We live pretty rurally. And it was funny because I noticed that there was like a random car pulled out and a husband was behind the wheel, or a gentleman was behind the wheel. And the wife or woman that he was traveling with had gotten out of the car and was in front of Misty's house taking a picture of these tulips. So that's when you know that you have an impactful tulip. So I would say that on my list, or maybe I'll just enjoy Misty's from here on out, is Claudia Tulip. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous tulip that's just, rock'em sock'em. And that blossom size is about the size of a small fist. Maybe not a child's fist, but a small woman's fist, basically. If you're not watching this on YouTube, I'm making a fist in the camera because it's about the size of my fist. And I just love it.
And is it reliably perennial? Does it come back for her every year?
Yes, that's the thing. It's reliably perennial. I live super rurally. There are tons of deer in our neighborhood. I mean, free roaming. This is not fenced off. This is a roadside garden. The one thing that I think that it does have going for it, and this is one of the deer mitigation strategies that I've started to employ, is there is a large shrub nearby and the bulbs are kind of tucked up against it, and it's in a raised bed with a stone wall that's kind of around the front of it. So it's not an easily accessible spot. I mean, I guess if the deer really wanted to, they could like lean over and pick the buds off the top of them. But it's almost like, deer are lazy. I have this whole theory that deer are lazy. If they've got to like go that extra step to get at something, they won't. So yeah, she unbelievably like has this one perfect spot that they just leave it alone, which is awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, since, you've got a wish list tulip or two on your list, here comes my wish list tulip. We talked a little bit about species tulips, just mentioned it in passing. And I have seen over the years that species tulips tend to do a bit better in my garden. They come back more reliably. Species tulip basically means that it's an unhybridized version of tulips. I mean, if you think of, the iconic tulips that are on the fronts of bulb magazines, those are European hybrids. So species tulips generally are the closest thing you can get to a wild tulip. And there's different variations and nativars, cultivars of those native wild tulips, but they tend to have more grassy foliage to them, a thinner leaf to them. Not that you plant them for the foliage, and then more of like an open, almost campanula cup-like flower. It's a very, very interesting take on a tulip, but they're tough as nails. They're very hardy, and they have a tendency just to be a bit more reliable. So that would be my advice to somebody who's, been burned by tulips before. Try to get into those species tulips. And these are are better for warmer climates as well. This next one is actually allegedly hardy from zones 4 to 9. And it's Alba Coerulea Oculata species tulip, and that's Tulipa humilis, Alba Coerulea Oculata. Holy macaroni. It's so beautiful. It's got, I've seen it at Botanic Gardens. I've seen it in our database of photos. It's stunning. Oh my gosh. It is white. It is a small golf ball sized flower, but it puts out multiple stems of blossoms. This really does make a clump, so you're getting more for your dollar. White flowers, and then get this, a steel blue eye in the middle of that cup and black anthers. So it's I'm at a loss for words, which never happens. It's so stinking beautiful. And when you get some light, that center of that tulip, that center cup, really does glow blue, like true blue, sapphire blue. It is gorgeous. This isn't a giant. This is going to get 6 to 8 inches tall, but makes like a nice little clump. So think of it as like almost a dwarf little perennial for the front of the border or along a pathway. Species tulips too tend to multiply and naturalize themselves over time. So this really does look stunning in a grouping. So if you get several of the bulbs, you could do these little tufted masses where you're almost making a sweep in your landscape of these. Here's the thing with Tulipa humilis in particular. This is almost borderline alpine plant. So one of the essential things for this guy is going to be well-drained soil, which is perfect for me. I've got that crappy, lean, backfill of soil that I've worked on for years and is still crappy and well-drained. So if you've got rock garden-like conditions, this is a good option for you. So Alba Coerulea Oculata species tulip, like blue eye, right? Coerulea Oculata. I mean, I'm no Latin expert, but it sounds like a white blue eye tulip if I was doing the translation, which Google would tell me I'm wrong. But so yeah, that's my wish list tulip. Carol, what have you got next coming up?
Oh, so I didn't know if we were going to roll right into it, but I've got a species tulip too, and yes. I think it might look good with your species tulip. So, and another one with sort of a royalty name. It's this Lady Jane. It's a lady tulip. Is the common name for Tulipa clusiana, and the cultivar again, Lady Jane. It's one of those that is hardy from zones 3 to 7. So good winter hardiness for the farther north zones. And, you just, like any of these, you really can't plant it too deep in the south. But I think you might have a better chance with this than with some of the other, the Darwin tulips or the other wish list tulips that we had earlier. But this is native to the Mediterranean, Asia Minor, the Caucasus, and it's a good rock garden type plant. Loves the well-drained soil, and it's small, but it's strikingly beautiful. I would say it gets about 1 foot tall. You plant them 3 to 5 inches deep, 6 inches apart, and the color is like this rosy red on the exterior and then a creamy white interior and petal edges, which differentiate it from the straight species. And then the interior base, if you look inside, because it's very open, you look inside and the base of each petal is like a golden yellow. So just a beautiful little detail. You would want to put this somewhere where you could view it up close. But I like that idea of some white in the spring bulb landscape, having some white, but then like with a pop of another color. Yeah. So I think maybe your tulip and my tulip might look good together because they share the white.
Absolutely. And, it's more of a subtle coloring too, right? It's not an in your face, hammered on. I feel like sometimes bulbs just look comical, right? They look like a little Disney World because, at a time, depending on where you live, granted, but, at a time when there's not a whole lot going on in the garden, when all of a sudden you have all these lollipops that are like bright neon colors stuck all throughout. I mean, sometimes it can look a little comical, but these like Lady Jane or, the species tulips, they're a little more refined. They're a little more subtle, give you that subtle pop of color, which is a little softer.
I love the Disneyland ones too, though. Like the bigger and the crazier, the better. I love that too.
All right. Duly noted. All right, so I'm going to take it back to hybrid tulip land or Disneyland tulip, like let's call it that, the Disneyland tulips, but in a very subtle color. So we kind of got into it, confession, like I'm not somebody who really loves a bright orange in my garden at any time of year, not just spring. I don't really love a bright fire engine red either. That's not my jam. We've talked about I'm in like Pink Anonymous right now. Like I'm trying to like pink a little bit more than I really do. Softer pinks I'm okay with. So, that really limits my spring bulb palette quite a bit. And then it feels like a waste to have a yellow tulip when I've got all these daffodils, which are just various shades of yellow. So why would I go out and buy a yellow tulip? So I settled on spring green tulip, and that's the cultivar name is spring green. Sometimes you'll see this as Tulipa spring green, or sometimes you'll see it as Tulipa verdifolia. Who knows what's the right, somebody probably at one point just assigned it a cultivar name, but regardless, it's zones 3 to 7. Maybe 3 to 8. And it is one of the European hybrid tulips. So, it's that typical tulip shape that's, kind of, I don't know, the size of, half a softball basically. But this is also a white tulip, but it's a white tulip with green streaking and chartreuse streaking up and down its cup. And it on the tops of each one of those fluted, petals, it's kind of ruffled, or I've even heard somebody called it, which might be an official tulip way of saying it's got a feathered tip. So it gives you kind of this feathery effect up on the top of it. Really an interesting texture too. Just again, you can't talk about tulips without the backlighting, right? Backlit, this is a stunning, glowing tulip. That's just a gorgeous, gorgeous tulip. This is late spring. Of all the tulips on my list, this is one that's going to come into its own the latest. You're here in the Northeast, you're marching towards May by the time these guys are really going. It looks so good then among unfurling ferns in the spring. So you've got that green on white and they're kind of in the background. And then there's all these native ferns that are around the base of it. Just pure perfection, totally by chance, was not planned on my part, but really, really nice. And that's another deer protection strategy, right? Like, deer tend to, stay away from a lot of the native ferns. I don't know if because they're just like, we've seen these before. I don't know if it gives them a tummy ache, who knows? And with ferns, it's kind of hard to get into that rooted root mass, but usually you're able to, with like a trowel or a dibbler, kind of work your way in and plop a tulip bulb in there. And they don't seem to mind the root competition. They still do their thing. This is a tall guy too. This is 18 to 20 inches tall with a strong, sturdy stem. So you'll kind of see, in the picture, I didn't want you to see the awkward legs, so you'll kind of see this backlit mass of them kind of poking up, and there is some kind of shrub in the background in the picture I'll put in the show notes. I can't remember I think it's a 9-bark, just kind of starting to come out into leaf, but I'm a big fan. It's spring green tulip. If you're somebody who's like me and is, kind of a little leery on those candy colors, this is a nice subtle version that you can plant instead in late spring.
Excellent. I have one that is way less subtle. Let's just
give me that Disneyland.
I don't think this is one that you will like at all because
I can appreciate it from afar.
It is fire engine red and orange all at once.
Oh my goodness. All right, let me put on my sunglasses. All right, I'm ready.
So this one's called Tangerine Beauty, and it is a species tulip. It's, oh my goodness, this name. Tulipa vedenskii, I think. It's got two V's at the beginning of the, I've never seen a word with two V's at the beginning. Anyway, vedenskii. Tangerine Beauty, zones 3 to 7. So it likes those same rock garden conditions, dry, especially in the summer. Well drained. That's one thing that'll terminate any tulip is like soggy soil. They'll just rot. But it's little, it's described, people describe it as a wildflower tulip. And that's, I mean, imagine the thrill of coming over the crest of a hill and seeing these like growing in a field somewhere, which I think this is another one that is native to the part of Asia that used to be in the Soviet Union. So that Kazakhstan and, a lot of countries with Stan at the end, I think, is sort of where this one came from. So you can plant 9 of these per square foot. So you pack them in together, and to get a lot of impact, even though they're not very tall. And like I said, brightwood flowers flamed with a soft orange, like tangerine orange. But the thing that I think is really neat about this one is the foliage. It has a sort of a rippled edge on the foliage. So it almost looks like that hosta called curly fries. If you know that one.
Yes, I do. Okay, like long, skinny leaf with like kind of a water slide going on down the edges. Yep.
Exactly. So the ripply kind of, wavy edge. And a cool blue color. It looks like curly fries hosta has sent up these like wild and crazy little blooms. So I thought that was neat. I also thought it was cool that High Country Gardens carries this and lists it as suitable for a lot of regions where you wouldn't ordinarily think that tulips would do well. So of course, Northeast, of course, Midwest, but also Southeast, West, Southwest, the hot desert. They say it's good for the hot desert.
Wow.
Northwest and coastal California. It's suitable for elevations above 7,000 feet. Because of where it comes from, like, arid, mountainous, sort of desert-like conditions is what its main jam is. It's going to be just fine with that. So it would do well on your, gravelly hill, but you probably don't want all this fire engine red, do you?
It kind of, as you were describing it, it reminded me of maybe the tulip version of a California poppy. I don't know why. I just kept envisioning that because of the tangerine in the name. Say the name again, Carol, for everybody.
Tangerine Beauty.
Tangerine Beauty. Okay.
And vedenskii is the
vedenskii. I love it. Well, so this is the perfect segue to the last plant here because you picked a tulip with cool foliage and tulips aren't known for their foliage, folks. I mean, let's be honest here. We do not grow tulips for their foliage, but I have an interesting foliage tulip too. A plant that I would grow, a tulip I would grow strictly just for the foliage, actually. And that's Red Riding Hood Greig's tulip, which is Tulip greigii, and it's Red Riding Hood, zones 4 to 8. This is also one that High Country Gardens says will do well in most of the country, even warmer areas, high elevations, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, of course, but then down into more desert-like conditions as well. High desert, let's be honest. I'm not sure that you're going to be able to grow this in, southern Texas, but give it a whirl. You never know. So the leaves are first to emerge. And I took a picture yesterday of what this looks like in my garden right now. And it's very thrilling because it's one of the first things that's doing anything. The leaves emerge as this very tight rosette. And it is a triangular shaped leaf that's a bluish green color, but then it's got these dark burgundy streaks down it, almost like snakeskin markings on the leaves, just absolutely stunning. Really, really beautiful. It's tiny though. This is just a 10 to 12 inch tall and wide tulip, so it doesn't get huge. And then eventually it gives way in mid-spring. This is kind of the middle of the road tulip, to these stems that come up into this lipstick red Riding Hood, smaller fluted tulip that's kind of, got some outturned tips to the end. So you've got this kind of, perfect. If you were a little kid drawing a tulip shape, this would be the shape of Little Red Riding Hood or Red Riding Hood. I will say the red washes out. I have this in full sun. It's just a full sun area along one of my walkways, and it washes out fairly quickly to more of a pink color, frankly, a lipstick pink color. It doesn't bother me though. For some reason, it really doesn't bother me. I think I give this tulip a pass just because the foliage is so, so cool. But I think, if you're really going for that red color, that lipstick red color, you want it to stay true to its name, Red Riding Hood, I would put this in partial shade, because then it would probably not wash out the color of the blossom as much. But yeah, it's a cool tulip. It's a cool foliage. And yeah, I would stick with it even if it never bloomed. And now, because everything sounds better with a British accent, here's Peter to talk about not tulips, mud? Peter, why are you talking about mud?
Well, friends, it's official. Spring has officially sprung here in the northeast. The birds are singing, the sun is shining, and yes, the tulips are popping up. Your favourite Englishman is in fairly good spirits too. After all, what's not to love about spring? Except, perhaps, the mud. If you've never lived somewhere that experiences annual freeze-thaw cycles, you might not know what the term mud season refers to. Well, since this is generally the educational portion of the podcast, allow me to enlighten you. There is a several-week window of time in chillier locales across North America where one day might reach into the mid-60s temperature-wise, follow the next day with a plummet into the 20s. That's Fahrenheit, by the way. Silly Americans. This extreme shift almost always leads to the soil turning into a consistency of a McFlurry milkshake. There's scarcely a day in all of April here when you don't have to wear galoshes to slog from point A to point B. The lawn turns to mud, the roadsides become a muddy mess, and even my garden suddenly has mucky sinkholes magically appearing within the beds. And all of that mud does not stay politely outside. Oh no. It is frequently tracked into your house, car, and basically everywhere you can think. It's a bloody mess in these parts during this 4 to 5 week period. Perhaps that's why we tend to appreciate spring bulbs like tulips so much more. Their verdant leaves and bright blooms are just about the only thing that breaks up the monochromatic scene of Van Dyke brown as far as the eye can see. Yes, mud season is a drag, but it gives way to the lushness it is mid-spring, and for that, I will dutifully put up with having to wash the floors 8 million times. Now, where did I put that mop?
Carol, has mud season arrived at your house?
Yes, but it's not bad because we're on a paved road. If we were in Vermont on the back roads, yeah, you would be having some issues getting around right now, I think.
Yeah, we are. We're I live on a dirt road, so yeah. It's muddy, and the dog is tracking in the mud, and the husband is tracking in the mud, and all the mud is everywhere. So I feel Peter on this, but the tulips are bringing me great joy. And sounds like tulips bring great joy to our expert as well, correct?
Absolutely. So we actually have a tag team, 2 experts together for the price of one, and they are going to tell us how they are growing tulips in Wheelock, Vermont. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. And they have some amazing tulips that they grow there.
I can't wait to hear what they suggest.
Hello, my name's Olivia.
And I'm Nick.
And our farm is Inch Permaculture in Wheelock, Vermont. This is an area known as the Northeast Kingdom and is along the Canadian border.
We're a diversified no-till farm that specializes in growing a variety of perennial and annual fruits, veggies, and cut flowers for market. Our farm is designed on contour using organic no-till practices to help mitigate erosion, capture carbon, and add fertility and biodiversity to our landscape.
Today, we're here to talk about tulips, which have become one of our favorite crops to grow. We grow tulips through the winter months in Vermont by forcing them on a large scale in growing crates. We're able to grow about 60 flowers in one crate, with the bulbs being planted as close as eggs in a carton. Each variety has a specific number of cooling weeks that it requires, and once cooling time is reached, we can begin to stagger blooming dates. This year, we had our first flowers bloom in January, and they'll continue to flower for us through May. This is a great way to extend our growing season in Vermont, Zone 4, which is on average only 133 frost-free days.
In the winter, there are very few local flower options here, so most flowers are imported from around the world with no limit to the amount of pesticides that they can be treated with before shipment. They're also a large contributor to greenhouse gas emissions as they are traveling such great distances, not to mention poor working conditions and low wages for many farm workers.
We know that the need for local flowers only increases in the dark days of winter, so we're happy to grow tulips to boost spirits in our community.
We're currently growing 7,000 bulbs in 16 different varieties, so it's very hard to narrow down a favorite, but here are a few that we want to highlight.
The first variety I want to talk about is Dreamer. Dreamer is a really pretty blush or light pink color, double bloom tulip with a high petal count. The buds look large well before they open, and they open up to look like a garden rose or peony. The tulip centers are light yellow, and the stamen are also light in color, so they don't have the stark contrast that some tulips have. They're truly a pastel color. Dreamer has super long stems of 18 to 24 inches, and some of them even had as many as 3 extra buds on the stems. This meant bonus flowers. Like all double tulips, they're very long-lasting, with 8 to 10 good days in the vase, especially when water is changed and the stems are recut. Some flowers, like dahlias, can go from beautiful to a brown gooey mess as it dies, but thankfully tulips tend to die gracefully. Their leaves stay green and the flower petals fade to be papery thin and iridescent. This particular variety fades to white.
The second variety is Pink Star. Pink Star is another double blooming tulip in a tri-colored mix that reminds me of rainbow sherbet. The fruity pinks, oranges, and greens are a juicy blend that gets me ready for the summer ahead. These bulbs are good for zones 3 to 7, and like all tulips, a cold period is necessary for flowering and stem length. Warmer zones may have problems with shorter stems, but the flowers are still eye-catching in the landscape. These flowers were shorter than Dreamer with stems around 12 inches for us.
The next variety that we love is Apricot Parrot. Parrot tulips are consistently long-stemmed tulips with ruffled petals that resemble parrot feathers. The flowers are huge, and when they open, they resemble a star. Apricot Parrot is my favorite parrot variety so far because of the beautiful mix of colors. It shares the same fruity mix of colors as Pink Star, but the petals look hand-painted in watercolor. The colors fade from light yellow centers to a peachy pink color with springy green tips. The delicate colors are contrasted with dark black anthers for a very dramatic look. A fun fact that you might not know is that tulips continue to grow after being cut. They will grow several inches in the vase, so make sure to display these apricot parrot stems in a tall supportive vase and recut stems after a few days for the best vase life.
The last variety we are highlighting today is Verona. This is our third year growing Verona, and it's a staple for us. Verona is a double blooming tulip in a creamy yellow color. The flowers have a high petal count and grow on consistently tall stems. The flowers open very large and give off a lemony citrus scent that perfectly matches their color. Tulips are phototropic, so you can watch them dance as they reach and curve towards the light. We love Verona because it's reliable, consistent, and absolutely beautiful. This year we added 2 new versions of Verona to our growing mix. We grew Verona Fire, which shares the same attributes as Verona but in a bright red color that was perfect for Valentine's Day. And we also grew Verona Sunrise, which was an exciting mix of bright sunrise colors. Verona is an absolute keeper, and we look forward to seeing what new varieties are developed next.
We hope that this segment today encourages you all to grow some tulips of your own. We believe that with all the varieties that exist, there's a tulip for everyone. We know that certainly we'll be adding more to ours next season.
That was really cool, Carol, like how they grow tulips in crates.
do. And the idea of doing them as like a sustainable cut flower is fascinating to me. I don't know if we think enough about where our fresh flowers come from. Most of the time, you're buying something in the grocery store or whatever. But this is something that Nick and Olivia think about, and they're doing something about it. So I thought that was cool.
love that. I love that so much. So now I'm going to make sure if I'm buying tulips from a florist that they're sustainably produced. Or I'll just ask Nick and Olivia to start delivering to my house. It's not that far, right? 8 hours, 9 hours, no big deal.